Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines, where my guest is Congressman Garret Graves for District 6. He represents about 800,000 folks in D.C. He also says it's the most difficult political environment he's ever worked in or ever seen. The hostilities are not good. Still, he's been successful. He's brought almost $4 billion to the state of Louisiana and Baton Rouge region since 2015. So join us on the next Legal Lines with Congressman Garret Graves. Legal Lines has interviewed Louisiana Supreme Court justices, appellate trial court judges, federal, state, and local government leaders, including U.S. senators and Congress members. Watch at Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan & Associates website, LockeMeredith.com, or Cox Channel 1004.
At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan & Associates, it's an honor and a privilege if you choose us to serve you.
We serve you with respect, dedication, and an unwavering commitment.
We serve you by working hard and striving to get you the best possible results.
We serve you using 60-plus years of legal knowledge, experience, and relationships.
At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan & Associates, we believe that life is about relationships, and it's the mission and ministry of all of us to serve you. Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan & Associates has served our community by airing Legal Lines, a community educational program for 18 years weekly to Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas. Watch Legal Lines at LockeMeredith.com or Cox Channel 1004. Hello, welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm very pleased to have back on the show a very special guest, Congressman Garret Graves. Garret, wonderful to have you back.
Hey, great to be back.
It's always fun to kind of go back and look at what we talked about and how much you've accomplished, frankly. Let's dive in. You know, you've now coming close to the end of your, second term, and you have been there since 2015 and endured a complete change in political winds and then a little moderation here and there. Tell folks kind of where we are.
Well, it really has been pretty amazing. I think people who have been in Congress for years and years haven't experienced what we had, having President Obama in at one point, having President Trump in.
Two extremes.
Extremes, and then the
Some would
other
say.
is having the leader of John Boehner or Paul Ryan in the House, and now having Nancy Pelosi. So really just in a short period of time, experiencing all sorts of changes in Washington and operating under very different conditions and rules and what have you, but still been able to focus on some of the important priorities of this area and get things done, and that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Amazing successes. I kind of wanted you to have an explanation for the folks is how when it was President Obama, initially they had all levers of control, the presidency and both houses of the Congress. Then that changed. Trump came in, took over all control, and now you've got a House that is split where the Senate's controlled by Republicans, and sadly, as far as I'm concerned, Democrats in the House, which is where you are, and you've kind of enjoyed now, I guess, in a way, the experience of either situation.
It's been very educational, I'll say that, and it has. I'm going to try and be nice and just say that it really has, just seeing the differences in leadership style, in priorities, and even Locke in the rules. You have big changes in the way that the House operates, the rules under which in some cases the federal agencies operate, and just figuring out how to pivot and be agile to those changes to make sure that we can keep trying to focus on priorities of this region.
You just said something that was really interesting. I never thought about that. So the agencies are affected by which party is in control?
Well, effectively through executive orders, through different policies that either the White House or the cabinet officials the secretaries of the agencies may put in place. You do have changes. You have changes in priorities. You have changes in different policies. It really is pretty remarkable the impact a change in an administration can have.
We were talking about, I know in my lifetime, and I'm probably about 10 years older than you, I've never seen such political division, both in terms of at the federal level, sometimes state, and even in the population. How are you dealing with it? What do you see? And you're on the front lines.
Yeah. You know, first, it's pretty disgusting. It really is. The polarization or how partisan things are, I think it is entirely contrary to what our founding fathers intended. I think it's entirely contrary to George Washington's wishes. And if you ever want to go see kind of a scary kind of prophecy, look at what George Washington said in his farewell address in 1796, where he effectively predicted some of the impacts or the partisanship that we're seeing right now. I feel that you've seen a lot of the power being amassed within the political parties. And what that does is it dilutes the power of just the people. And I'll say it again, I don't think it's what the Founding Fathers intended.
Agreed.
And I certainly don't think it's in the best interest of the people of South Louisiana or really anywhere in America, because I think that rather than them having the power invested in the people, I think you're seeing more and more of an amassing of power within political parties and administrations, and I just don't think it's healthy.
I don't know if most folks remember, but you've actually been up there in D.C. for quite a long period of time, not as a congressman, but you've actually worked for congressmen in the past, senators, United States senators. You worked for Governor Jindal, and you've seen, I imagine, a lot of difference in the way politics is affecting the parties now. You were showing me graphs earlier that just, a picture paints 1,000 words.
It sure does. And yeah, I had a chance to work for Louisiana delegation for a number of years and had, really just some fantastic mentors that taught me a lot of lessons learned, both from their successes and their mistakes. And it really helped me to hit the ground running a bit. And when I started in this job, but you certainly have seen just in the time that I worked up there, and of course got elected and went back to Washington, just seen all sorts of incredible changes in this amassing of power within the political leaders, as opposed to amassing the power with the individual members of Congress and ultimately with the American people.
So what caused it, and how do we change it?
It's really tough. I mean,
some people say it's Trump derangement syndrome.
It started before Trump.
What your graphs showed.
It did. And I'd love to tell you it's these 5 things, but I hadn't quite figured it out. I figured out some of the contributing factors, but I think that it is kind of this intoxicating power issue where there's so much of a battle, a fight to either be in the party in control or to become the party in control. And folks are ruling more with an iron fist. I think that there's less tolerance for the other side. And Locke, something that's important to keep in mind, I like it when people challenge me. I like it when people challenge my thoughts because it makes me, think about it. It makes me either re-verify or realize, what, I was wrong.
Why you believe what you believe.
Yep. And you see some of these things that are happening, for example, where it's manifesting in these college campuses where folks are saying, oh, look, we're not going to have this conservative speaker come. We're not going to allow him. We're going to protest him. We're going to uninvite him. Let me tell you, if all you're going to do is listen to the choir, if all you're going to do is surround yourself with people that say yes, 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 that is dangerous.
Right.
America did not become the sole superpower. We did not become the strongest economy in the world. We didn't become the freest nation in the world by sitting around in an echo chamber. We became this by being innovative, by coming up with new ideas, by pivoting, transitioning, becoming more efficient, and to sit around
and cooperation.
And that's right, and working together, because we did not become, again, the world's sole superpower by having these internal wars within different factions in this country. And it is important to expose yourself to challenges in ideology, challenges in policy position, because you know what? There is a better way. There always is a better way.
And you may not always know it.
And that's right. And we need to continue working in that direction. I love, for example, if we have tax bills coming up, to pull a group of accountants together, people who work in that space, and hear thoughts with them. If we have regulations having to do with plumbing and water, pull a group of plumbers together. Let's talk about it.
Bring in all
what
the
it's
players.
like on the ground, to where the people that deal with this on a daily basis, they can share their expertise. Healthcare. Let's get together with nurses and practitioners and doctors and insurance companies and patients, and let's hear from them better ideas and what the priorities are. Because you just for people to sit around and think that they know everything, they have all the answers and the solutions, that's not how we became great, and it's incredibly dangerous.
Well, it's interesting because we did have two different philosophies on how to run government and how to run the nation. And under President Obama, there was a certain set of ideas and principles. And of course, with President Trump, there's the same thing, but they're very different. And it seems to me, when you look at the economy and all the things that we would use to measure the success, it has been better under President Trump. What are your thoughts?
Nationally, you can't argue with it. You absolutely can't argue with it. You have 50-year low unemployment. Whereas under President Obama, you saw 1/3 of the oil and gas jobs in the state.
All right, we'll continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines. My very special guest, Congressman Garret Graves. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Congressman Meredith. I'm one of the attorneys here at Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. One of the many distinguishing factors of our firm is that we are not just one lawyer that you are hiring. We are a team of attorneys. When you hire one of us, we all pull from each other's experiences, knowledge of the law, so that we get you not only a solution to your problems, but the best solution that we can come up with for your problems. So for that reason and many others, I hope that you hire our firm.
Hi, my name is Mitchell Meredith. I'm one of the associate attorneys here at Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. One of the reasons I love this firm is that the moment you walk through the doors, you're so much more than business. You're family, which means we're going to fight for you as if you're family. At the end of the day, I think what distinguishes our firm from others is we're a firm that is truly personal, professional, and proven.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Again, very pleased to have back on the show Congressman Garret Graves. He's Congressman for the state of Louisiana, District 6. It's about 800,000 folks, probably the largest geographical area based on what I've looked at anyway.
It is big, 13 parishes.
It keeps you busy because you got to run every 2 years.
Yeah.
So let's dive back in. The comparison, because you have been there for both, between, and it's, stark contrast between the time President Obama was in control of the levers of power and now President Trump. What's your analysis?
Well, if you look at outcomes in policy, I mean, how do you argue that under President Trump we're at a 50-year low unemployment, 50-year low?
For all socioeconomic groups.
And that's one of the things that's really neat. If you start digging in on the numbers, lowest unemployment for women, lowest unemployment for African Americans, lowest unemployment for Hispanic Americans, lowest unemployment for Asian Americans. I mean, it is a very diverse win or sort of opportunity for so many different folks, very diverse folks, demographics across the United States. So that's fantastic. We've seen trade or foreign investment come pouring into the United States like we have virtually never seen it before. Hundreds of billions of dollars in foreign investment being invested into the United States. So look, things are going really well, and I think it shows that when you compare and contrast policies, which actually work, which actually are helpful, it's pretty clear and it's irrefutable. I think it's hard to argue with some of these things. Now, in Louisiana, we under President Obama, we lost 1/3 of the energy workforce in our state. This is the largest sector of our economy, and to lose 1/3 of it, that was thousands and thousands of families impacted, of folks losing their job, and that had a big impact on our economy here as well.
And he literally shut down the coal industry.
They shut it down, but also the offshore energy industry took a huge hit, which Louisiana has the largest offshore energy industry by far in the United States. And so you've seen some of that coming back, and in fact, right now, this is incredible, Locke. 86% of the liquefied natural gas exported out of America was exported out of Louisiana. 86%. I mean, so we're not just powering Louisiana's economy. We're not just powering the nation's economy. We're powering the world's economy. I think it's like 35 or 36 nations today are getting energy from us.
And that's not only good for America. That's good from a political security standpoint, where Europe can't be held hostage to Russia.
Vladimir Putin. That's exactly right. You can talk about from an environmental perspective. We have cleaner burning natural gas. We're kneecapping Vladimir Putin. We're undermining OPEC, that cartel of energy producers from the Middle East and elsewhere that have been controlling energy prices. These are good things for America. They're good things for Louisiana and for jobs, and it really does help to improve global security.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say I've read in the last several months that OPEC was trying to raise prices, and it didn't do it because we are now energy independent because of what President Trump and you guys did in Congress.
It just a really short time frame. So if you look back, for example, in 2005 and in 2008 from some of the natural disasters and some of the wars going on out in the Middle East or skirmishes there, you saw price spikes of energy to the tune of 75 cents a gallon, $1.40 a gallon, national average price spike. And you look at what happened in Saudi Arabia, where Iran came in and sent missiles and drones to attack the Saudi Arabia.
That sent the world into a recession.
I think if that had happened 10 or 20 years ago, you would have seen dollar plus price spikes. And of course, you did see a bump, but it was a blip compared to what I think you would have seen historically. And it goes back to our energy security and the fact that the United States is effectively energy self-sufficient.
So let's talk about the security of the United States of America in context of, because there's a lot of hot spots in the world, as you're fully aware. Kind of tell me your analysis of that.
Well, I mean, you can go around the globe. You've got North Korea, nuclear weapons with an unstable leader. You've got Vladimir Putin in Russia pushing the envelope all over the place in regard to intervening in skirmishes like in Venezuela and Syria, where they have no business being.
Our backyard over here.
And you have China trying to expand their footprint, militarizing areas that aren't even theirs, where they're building islands and then militarizing them. But look, you got to give a thumbs up to the United States Navy and to the Air Force and Marines and others that are doing freedom of flight, that are doing freedom of navigation. We're saying, look, we're not going to recognize you suddenly jamming a pole in the ground and calling it your land. We're going to continue sailing through here. We're going to fly over here, and just absolutely not going to allow you to unilaterally declare certain areas your own country. So very concerning. But I'll tell you one of the things that concerns me more than anything else, more than all these battles and everything you're seeing. You were seeing a lot of the battles or conflicts that used to be out there in public, the missiles, the rockets, the airplanes, the boats, and you're seeing it transition to cyber. And some of these state-sponsored attacks in Iran, North Korea, Russia, China, instead of going out front with weapons and artillery, they're instead being more covert about their attacks. They're attacking our energy systems. They're attacking our banking systems. They're attacking our internet and just communication systems all over the United States. And they're doing it much more covertly. And in some cases, trying to be one step removed and having it as non-state entities or some group, a proxy that they're paying to actually do this. And that gets pretty crazy if you see some of the things that are going on, trying to shut down our electrical grid, or at least have the ability to, trying to throw conflict into our banking system and suddenly come in and have the ability to wildly influence your balances and maybe take all your money or shift money around and cause chaos.
It's complete. What do you think about the whole move, it looks like, of Russia and China and kind of the other bad actors of trying to kind of leave the dollar bill, the United States dollar bill, out of the transactions, kind of remove it from being the world reserve currency?
Well, this is all, in my opinion, part of their national defense strategy. This isn't in their best economic interest. I think it's more so part of their defense posture that they're attempting right now as you see all of these shifts. But as we, going back to the conversation on energy, as we continue to develop the national energy policy and energy development in the United States, if we do that aggressively and if we're strategic about it, we can undercut Russia and help to prevent Vladimir Putin from having the money he needs to try and carry out these aggressive acts around the world. And if we can get a fair trade deal with China,
that's exactly my next question.
Fair trade with China undermines their ability to do some of the things they're doing right now, where they're stealing U.S. intellectual property, our inventions, where they're out there taking our inventions and manufacturing there and selling them back to us and undercutting the very people that develop these ideas. If we get fair trade deals in place, as this president is trying to do, I think that it does help us across the board in some of these other global security
So what is your
efforts.
view of the tariffs? I've kind of looked at it as Trump is using it for two reasons, economic and security. Because of the very reason you were just stating, and that is those guys are saying, come over here and do business in China, but we get 51% of the ownership, and whatever technology you develop,
you have to show
tell us what it is, and they steal it, and they put them out of business 10 years later.
Look, on the one hand, I am a free trader. I think that if you give the American workforce a level playing field, you give us the ability to compete, they're not going to beat us. We're going to outwork them. We're more efficient. We're more innovative. And we've proven it. In fact, the Louisiana workforce has the highest value added. We're the biggest value added workforce in the nation. But the tariffs,
explain that real quick. I'll tell you what. Let's pick this up on the next segment.
Right.
This is Locke Meredith Legal Lines. My very special guest, Congressman Garret Graves. We'll be right back. Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates has served our community by airing Legal Lines, a community educational program for 18 years weekly to Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas. Watch Legal Lines at LockeMeredith.com or Cox Channel 1004.
Hello, my name is Sean Fagan. And you know, one of the most important considerations in hiring an attorney is considering trust. I believe at our firm, our results speak for themselves. Most of the people we represent come from past clients who have referred friends, family members, other people they love to us to represent them in the same way we represented the persons who referred them. It's the greatest compliment any law firm could get. And I believe that if you come to our firm, we'll earn your trust.
Legal Lines has interviewed Louisiana Supreme Court justices, appellate trial court judges, federal, state, and local government leaders, including U.S. senators and Congress members. Watch at Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates website, LockeMeredith.com or Cox Channel 1004. Welcome back to Legal Lines. Again, I'm Locke Meredith and very pleased to have on the show Congressman Garret Graves. Let's dive back in. We were talking about the president's use of tariffs, seemingly for security purposes and economic purposes. And you talked about a value that the state of Louisiana has.
Yes, it's a great statistic. You know, we all think that we have good people and good culture and all that, and we do, but there's also a statistic that was put together by the Bureau of Labor Statistics that shows that the workforce in Louisiana brings the highest value added to products of any of any workforce in the nation.
Why is that?
And to put it in perspective, it's like triple or quadruple that of the state of Vermont, for example. I think it's just our ability to take raw materials and products and really process those, develop them, and turn them into things that are much more valuable and sell them around the United States and around the globe. But going back to the tariff question, Locke, look, I'm a free trader. I believe you give us a level playing field. I'm convinced that we're going to win. But what the president is doing is he's utilizing tariffs as a lever or tool to get us free trade, to get us fair trade. Because right now what's happening, we'll send products to certain countries. They'll slap a 40% tariff on it, yet they send us their products and we don't do anything back. That's not giving us the ability to compete on a level playing field.
Makes sense.
I as long as there's a strategy, as long as we are focused on the goal of providing free and fair trade, then I'm on board with it. But we've got to be strategic. We've got to continue measuring the impacts and make sure that we're having desired
And it was
outcomes.
successful in a renegotiation with the EU and Mexico and
Canada,
countries.
European Union, Japan, South Korea. We've had some wins out there in terms of some good agreements. But of course, China's the big one that we're all paying close attention to and needs to
Number
happen.
2 economy in the world, I guess.
And they've done it by stealing from us, by stealing our ideas and technology.
Trying to help them, and they're using it against us. Let's shift gears. You've accomplished an amazing amount of stuff, even with limited power. Tell folks kind of about what you've accomplished. You're in, 3 committees now?
We're on 3 committees.
And kind of tell us what you've been able to accomplish in your roles there.
Well, like we've been talking a little bit about, some of the energy resources in Louisiana. Of course, you're well aware the ports. We have 5 of the top 15 ports in the United States. We have this very abundant seafood in the Gulf of Mexico. One of 2 places in the country that has 6 Class 1 rail lines. I mean, just a value-added workforce, energy pipelines all over.
Natural resources
lowest
everywhere.
electricity rates in the United States. All these things that are fantastic. But we're still number 47, 48, 49, 50 on all these lists of the good things. So one of the problems we have is infrastructure. So we've been working and been able to secure over $700 million in new transportation projects. Washington Street exit, Picu Lane, new lane on I-10. Of course, we're all working toward a bridge. $3 billion.
The bridge, you're talking about Mississippi
River Bridge, absolutely. $3 billion in new flood protection. And this is breaking the logjam of projects like the West Shore project in River Parish has been stuck since the 1970s. The Comeet project right here in the Capital Region, flood protection stuck since the early 1980s. Baton Rouge area flood control stuck since 1992. Adding all this stuff up, about $3 billion in new flood protection funds. Going to have the safest flood protection system, safest community we've ever had, and $1.2 billion of that is all for future projects. So not just taking the projects from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but truly planning for the 2020s, the 2030s, the 2040s to make sure that we're ready for the future, not ready for the past, which doesn't make much sense.
And that brings to my mind the whole FEMA, money coming in and the restore, and there was this long lag time.
Yeah.
Some folks, even a couple of my ladies here, are saying, where's the restore money? What's holding this up? Was it the lack of planning? in
I
preparedness?
do think that the state made some mistakes, and I was pretty candid about that. Early on, they didn't hire a contractor. They didn't open up the application process until about April or May of 2017. I think that could have saved us at least 6 months in time had they done that much earlier. We had almost all of the restore money nearly 3 years ago, $1.7 billion.
Garret.
Almost all that money was secured almost 3 years ago. And Locke, think about that for just a minute. If you were running a business and they had needs here, you had money there, and you couldn't connect the two dots over 3 years, you would be put out of business. And I think this whole process of restore needs to be thrown out. This is a flawed process from the federal level, from the state level, and we really need to have fundamental changes to be more responsive to disaster victims and not have our own government re-victimize
Yeah, I
these
got to
people.
tell you, in a lot of ways, I feel like whatever money came from the feds didn't go to the people.
Well, much of it is still in the bank.
Well, it's
Much of it is
incredible.
still in the bank. In fact, there was a
So
graphic.
is it being fixed?
It's slowly moving in the right direction. And look, there's some federal problems, there's some state problems, but there is a change in policy that is being acted on right now. We should have a preliminary answer in the next couple of weeks and probably a longer term answer shortly thereafter, where we're going to be able to get a big chunk of money out the door and into the disaster victims' hands. But look, it's not okay to be 3 years after a disaster and then start providing assistance to these people.
I saw
It's not.
a new bill that y'all just proposed where hopefully we get a little more than, $11 million chopped up by 4 states out of what was it, like $2 billion in annual revenues?
Yeah, yep.
From the Gulf?
That's right. That's right. The offshore energy revenues that we produce from our energy in the offshore off Louisiana is one of the largest revenue streams for the U.S. Treasury. We changed the law to allow the state to begin getting a share of those revenues, but we're continuing to work to try. We have another bill out right now to try and raise the percentage of those revenues. And of course, under Louisiana law and under federal law, we use those monies to help build better flood protection, to restore our coast, to build hurricane protection and things along those lines, which ultimately saves the federal government money in disaster costs in the long run. And really, it's a wise policy rather than what they've done historically, which has been penny wise and pound foolish.
So tell me what you're looking at right now that you're trying to tackle.
Well, I'll tell you, locally, we're continuing to work on full recovery from the flooding, a new bridge for the Mississippi River. Nationally, some of the priorities, drug pricing, prescription drug pricing is out of hand. Some of the surprise medical billing. We recently had a bill having to do with robocalls that passed the House. We had
God.
yeah, no kidding, huh? Louisiana is one of the highest states per capita of robocalls in the nation. We just had the president a few months ago sign one of our bills into law that helps people just provide electronic consent just on their phones to the government to get access to privacy records, help from their members of Congress and things along those lines. So continuing to work on implementation of that. We have some disaster policy reforms that we're working on. We have a bill that we're working on right now that would take the Corps of Engineers and FEMA out of their respective agencies, put them together in one agency, an independent agency, and allow them to be much more agile in their decision making and efficient in their funding process. So a number of big things we're continuing to work on, but making progress in a lot of these areas right now.
I was just reading, there's an article about you in the New Yorker of all magazines. And so it had to do with your new position on the climate committee. Tell folks about that.
Yeah, so a new climate committee was established by Speaker Pelosi, and I was asked to lead it by the Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy, trying to make sure that there is common sense, level heads that are being applied there, recognizing that we have an abundance of energy like natural gas, which I'll throw out a fact that most people don't realize. The United States has reduced emissions more than the next 12 emissions reducing countries combined.
And that's because of technology.
It's
right?
because of technology, innovation, it's because of natural gas, and a lot of people are trying to write these things off. They are the reason we're the global leader.
And so you're going to bring to the table, I guess, because some folks think of climate change, they go, this is crazy, but you're bringing reason.
Bringing some common sense. We're
Thank
trying.
you very much.
Thanks, Locke. Good
Appreciate
seeing you
it.
again.
This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines and my special guest, Congressman Garret Graves. Thank you for being with us.